They threw her out of the hospital because she had no money. She sat on the steps, waiting for death, until a man from her past walked in and froze. What he did next changed everything. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello family, welcome to Tales by King. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The rain had been falling since morning. Not heavy, not loud, just cold, quiet drops that made the whole city look sad. In front of St. Mary's Hospital, people rushed in and out with umbrellas, jackets, and tired faces. Ambulances came and went. Nurses pushed wheelchairs. Doctors spoke in low, serious voices. And on the wide concrete steps, just near the glass doors, a woman sat alone. Her name was Lena Parker. She looked small on the big steps, as if the world had forgotten her. Her clothes were thin and old. Her shoes were worn and torn at the sides. Rain had soaked her hair and darkened her dress, but she did not move. Her arms were wrapped tightly around a small brown bag. That bag held all she owned. Her hands were shaking, not only from the cold, but from fear. Inside the hospital, she had just been told something that broke her heart. She needed surgery. She could die without it. But she had no money. So they asked her to leave. A nurse had said it politely, but the words still felt like knives. "I'm sorry, but you cannot stay here without payment." Lena had tried to speak. She had begged. She had cried. But rules were rules. So now she sat outside, listening to the sound of rain and wondering if this was where her life would end. She closed her eyes and whispered, "God, please don't let me die like this." Across the street, a long black luxury car slowed down. Inside sat Ethan Cole, a man known in the city as a billionaire. He owned companies, hotels, and buildings across the country. His name was often in newspapers and on television. But today he did not feel rich. He felt tired. He had returned to his childhood city for a business meeting and decided to stop at the hospital to visit an old doctor friend. The driver opened the door. As Ethan stepped out, the cold rain touched his face. And then he saw her. At first, he almost walked past. But something in his heart made him stop. A quiet voice inside him whispered, "Look again." He turned his head. The woman on the steps slowly raised her face. Her eyes were tired. Her cheeks were wet with tears. Her lips trembled as she tried to hold back sobs. Ethan froze. His heart began to beat fast. He knew that face. Even though time had changed her. Even though pain had touched her. It was her. Lena. The girl who once shared her school lunch with him when he had nothing. The girl who sat beside him when others laughed at his poor clothes. The girl who believed in him before he believed in himself. His childhood love. "Lena," he whispered, barely able to breathe. She looked around, confused, then turned toward him. Her eyes widened. "Hey, Ethan," she said softly. Her voice was weak. She tried to stand up, but her body shook and she nearly fell. Ethan rushed forward and held her arms. "Easy," he said. "I've got you." She stared at him, unable to speak, as tears ran freely down her face. "What are you doing here?" he asked gently. "Why are you outside?" She looked at the hospital doors, then back at him. "They sent me away," she whispered, "for being poor." Ethan turned slowly to look at the hospital. The place that should save lives had just rejected the woman he loved. And in that moment, his heart broke all over again. Ethan's hands stayed on Lena's arms for a moment, just to make sure she would not fall again. She was so light, too light, like someone who had been fighting life without rest. He guided her gently back down onto the step, then crouched in front of her so his face was closer to hers. "Lena," he said softly, "tell me the truth. What happened inside?" Lena tried to speak, but her throat tightened. Her lips trembled. I don't want to trouble you," she whispered. Ethan shook his head slowly. "You are not trouble," he said. You are Lena." The way he said her name made her chest ache. It sounded like the past. Like school days. Like safety. Lena looked down at her little brown bag again, holding it tighter, as if it could protect her from shame. "I didn't plan for you to see me like this," she whispered. "If I knew you were coming here, I would have left before you arrived." Ethan's eyes filled with pain. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you run from me?" She gave a small, broken laugh that had no joy in it. "Look at me, Ethan," she said. "Look at what I have become." Ethan's voice became firmer, but still gentle. "I'm looking," he said. "And all I see is the girl who once saved me from hunger." Lena blinked hard. Tears fell faster. Ethan slowly took off his suit jacket and placed it around her shoulders. She tried to protest. "No, it's expensive." "I don't care," he said. "You are cold." The jacket was warm. It smelled clean. It smelled like a life Lena had never been allowed to live. For a few seconds, she just sat there, breathing, trying to calm her shaking body. Ethan looked around. People were passing them. Some stared for a second when they recognized him, then looked away. Others were too busy with their own problems. But Ethan did not care who watched. All he cared about was the woman sitting in front of him. "Tell me," he said again. "Everything." Lena swallowed. She stared at the wet ground as the words finally came out. "It started months ago," she whispered. "I began to feel tired all the time. I would breathe like someone was pressing on my chest. Sometimes, even walking a little made me dizzy." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Why didn't you go to a hospital earlier?" he asked. Lena's eyes flickered with shame. "Because hospitals cost money," she answered quietly. Ethan did not speak. So she continued. "I tried to ignore it. I still had to work. I work at a small laundry shop now, washing clothes, lifting baskets, standing for long hours." Her voice grew smaller. "But one day I collapsed." Ethan's stomach turned. "Collapsed," he repeated. Lena nodded slowly. "My boss thought I was pretending. People gathered. Someone poured water on my face. I woke up on the floor, embarrassed like a child." Her tears dropped onto her bag. "They brought me here," she said. "They did tests. The doctor said my heart is weak, and that I need surgery as soon as possible." Ethan felt like someone had punched him. "What kind of surgery?" he asked, his voice low. Lena shook her head. "I don't even understand the big words," she whispered. "I only understood this part." She lifted her eyes to him, wet, frightened, honest. "If I don't do it, I may not live." Ethan's throat tightened. He could not speak for a moment. Lena quickly added, "But I told them I would pay later. I begged them to let me stay. I told them I could find a way." Her voice broke. "But the woman at the desk said I must pay a large deposit first." She said it like it was nothing. Lena's hands trembled as she copied the cold voice in her memory. "Madam, if you don't have it, you have to leave." Ethan's eyes flashed. "And the doctor?" he asked. "Did the doctor say anything?" Lena nodded. "The doctor looked sad," she whispered. "He said he was sorry. He said he wished he could help. But the hospital does not work for free." She looked away quickly. "So they removed my wrist tag," she said, rubbing her wrist like she could still feel it. "They gave me my paper and told me to go." Ethan's face hardened, but his voice stayed calm. "Lena," he said, "where is your family? Your husband? Your parents? Someone who can help." At the word parents, Lena's face changed. The pain in her eyes became deeper, older. "My parents died," she whispered. Ethan's expression softened again. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't know." Lena nodded slowly. "It happened after school," she said. "You remember when you left town? I stayed because my mother was sick. Then one evening, they were coming back from visiting my aunt." Her voice shook like she was standing inside the memory. "A truck hit their car," she whispered. "It was fast. It was loud. They died before they reached the hospital." Ethan's chest tightened. Lena's eyes filled again. "And after that," she continued, "I had nobody. My uncle took me in, but he didn't really want me. He always reminded me that I was a burden." Ethan clenched his fists. Lena shook her head slowly, like she was tired of her own story. "So I left," she whispered. "I started working. I tried to survive." She paused, then added in a softer voice. "And I tried to forget you, because thinking about you felt like thinking about a life I could never have." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "You tried to forget me?" he asked. Lena's tears fell again. "I didn't have a choice," she whispered. "You became someone high, someone far, someone too big for my life." She pointed weakly at her wet dress. "This is my life, Ethan." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. The rain kept falling. Cars passed. But Ethan did not move. Then Lena coughed suddenly and held her chest. Ethan's face changed instantly. "Lena," he said, reaching for her. "I'm okay," she whispered quickly, trying to calm him. "It happens sometimes." But Ethan could see the truth. She was not okay. Not at all. He stood up slowly, breathing hard, like he was fighting his anger and fear at the same time. "Listen to me," he said, his voice firm but full of care. "You will not sit here another minute like this." Lena looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. Ethan glanced at the hospital doors again, his eyes sharp now. Then he looked back at her. "Stay right here," he said. Do not move. Do you understand? Lena's lips parted. Ethan. He raised his hand gently, stopping her words. Just trust me, he said. Then he turned and began to walk toward the hospital. Not like a visitor, not like a man begging, but like a man who had the power to change what was wrong. And Lena watched him go, with fear in her heart, because she did not know what he planned to do next. But she could feel it. Something big was about to happen. Ethan walked through the hospital entrance with wet hair and a face that looked calm, but dangerous. The glass doors slid open and warm air hit him, but it did not warm his heart. All he could see was Lena's shaking hands. All he could hear was her broken voice saying, "They told me to go." He moved forward with steady steps. A security guard near the entrance noticed him and straightened up quickly. "Sir," the guard began, surprised. Ethan did not slow down. "I need to speak to the person in charge," Ethan said. His voice was quiet, but it carried power. The guard looked unsure, then nodded and pointed toward the front desk. Ethan went straight there. Two women behind the desk were typing and sorting papers. They looked up and froze when they saw him. One of them whispered to the other, "Is that Ethan Cole?" Ethan did not care about their shock. He placed both hands on the counter and leaned forward slightly. "Who is the hospital director?" he asked. The younger woman swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. Do you have an appointment?" Ethan's eyes did not blink. "I don't need one," he said calmly. "Call him." The older woman quickly picked up the phone with shaking fingers. Yes, sir. Right away." As she dialed, Ethan looked around. The waiting area was full. A man held a crying child. An old woman sat with an oxygen mask. A young pregnant woman leaned against her husband, breathing slowly. So many people. So many hearts. And yet a sick woman was told to leave because she was poor. Ethan's jaw tightened. The phone call ended. The older woman forced a polite smile. "Sir, the director will come down soon." Ethan nodded once. He did not sit. He stood there like a wall. A few minutes later, a man in a gray suit came walking quickly from the hallway. He looked nervous, fixing his tie as he approached. "Mr. Cole," the man said, forcing a wide smile. "Welcome. I'm Director Hammond. How can we help you today?" Ethan did not smile back. "I'm not here as a guest," Ethan said. The director's smile weakened a little. Ethan continued, still calm. "There is a woman outside on your steps," he said. "Her name is Lena Parker." The director blinked. Ethan's eyes hardened. "She collapsed. She needs urgent surgery. Your staff told her to leave because she does not have money." The director's face changed. He cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, we follow policies. We have costs. We cannot." Ethan lifted one hand slowly. That single action stopped the director's words like a door slamming shut. "Policies do not matter when a life is slipping away," Ethan said quietly. The director looked uncomfortable. "Sir, if we treat everyone without payment, the hospital will." Ethan stepped closer. "And if you send sick people away, what will happen?" Ethan asked. "They will die." The director looked down for a moment, then tried another approach. "I am truly sorry about her situation, but perhaps she can go to a government hospital." Ethan's voice became colder. "She came here because this is the nearest hospital," Ethan said. "And she was rejected." The director's lips parted, but no sound came out. Ethan took a slow breath, then spoke again. "Now listen carefully." The waiting area had become quiet. People were watching. Even nurses passing by slowed down. Ethan did not care. He wanted everyone to hear. "I will pay for her surgery," Ethan said. The director's eyes widened. "And I will also pay for her full care," Ethan continued. "Treatment, drugs, recovery, everything." The director's face brightened with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Cole. That is very generous." Ethan lifted his hand again. "I am not done." The director's smile froze. Ethan's voice stayed calm, but every word struck like a hammer. "I will donate a large fund to this hospital," Ethan said. "Enough to create a charity unit for poor patients." People gasped softly. A nurse near the hallway covered her mouth. The director's eyes shone like he had just seen heaven. That would be incredible, sir." Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. "But there is a condition," Ethan said. The director swallowed. Ethan leaned forward just a little, like a warning. "From today," Ethan said, "no patient will ever be sent away from this hospital for lack of money." The director's face stiffened. "Sir," Ethan cut him off. "If your staff rejects a poor patient again," Ethan said, "I will pull every donation." I will make sure the city knows exactly what this hospital does to the helpless." Silence fell. The director's throat moved as he swallowed again. Then he nodded quickly. "Yes, Mr. Cole. Yes. Understood." Ethan straightened. "Good," he said. "Bring your best heart doctor." The director snapped his fingers at a nearby nurse. "Call Dr. Peterson now." Immediately. The nurse ran. Ethan turned to the older woman at the desk. "Prepare her admission papers again," he said. "Now." "Yes, sir," she answered quickly. Ethan added, "And send a wheelchair outside." The woman nodded rapidly. Yes, right away." Within minutes, the hospital became busy in a new way. Not the normal busy. This one was urgent. Like the building itself had been shaken awake. A senior doctor arrived, holding a file. "Mr. Cole," the doctor said, respectful. "You're referring to Lena Parker, correct?" Ethan nodded. "She's outside," Ethan said. "She can barely breathe." The doctor's face became serious. "We will take her in immediately." Ethan's eyes softened slightly for the first time. "Do it," he said. And without waiting for any more words, Ethan turned and walked back toward the entrance. Outside, Lena was still sitting under the shelter. Her head was bowed. Her fingers were gripping the strap of her bag, so tightly her knuckles were pale. She looked up when she heard footsteps. Ethan was coming back. But something was different about him. His face was calm, yet strong. His eyes looked like a man who had just taken control of a storm. Lena stood up slowly, afraid to hope. "Ethan," she whispered. "What did you do?" Ethan walked to her and knelt in front of her, ignoring the wet ground. He looked into her eyes like she mattered more than the whole world. "You are going back inside," he said softly. Lena blinked, confused. What do you mean?" she asked. Ethan's voice was gentle but firm. "I paid," he said. "And I made sure nobody ever throws you out again." Lena's lips parted. Her eyes filled fast. "But, Ethan, Before she could finish, 2 nurses came rushing out with a wheelchair. "Madam Lena?" one nurse asked, suddenly polite. "Please come with us." Lena looked from them to Ethan like she was dreaming. Ethan held her hand. "It's okay," he said. "Lean on me." Lena sat in the wheelchair, trembling. As they wheeled her toward the hospital doors, she looked back at the steps where she had been rejected. Then she looked up at Ethan, walking beside her. And tears poured from her eyes. Not because of pain, but because for the first time in a long time, she felt saved. And as the doors opened for her again, Lena did not know it yet. But Ethan had done more than pay a bill. He had started a war against the kind of cruelty that once destroyed them. And the whole hospital was about to witness what love, power, and justice could do. The hospital doors closed behind Lena as she was wheeled inside. For the first time since she collapsed, she did not feel like a burden. She felt wanted. She felt protected. Ethan walked beside her until the nurses stopped him at the surgery door. "Sir, you must wait here," one nurse said gently. Ethan nodded. "I will be right here," he replied. They rolled Lena into the bright white hallway. She turned her head to look at him one last time before the doors closed. Her lips moved. "Thank you." Ethan pressed his hand to the glass as if she could feel it. "You are not alone," he whispered. The waiting room was quiet. The rain outside had stopped, but the night was long. Ethan sat alone, staring at the floor, thinking about the past. He remembered the day he left town as a poor boy with big dreams. He remembered Lena standing by the bus, waving, telling him not to give up. And now, she was fighting for her life. And he was finally beside her again. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Finally, the doctor stepped out. Ethan stood up so fast his chair moved backward. The doctor smiled. "She made it," he said. The surgery was successful. Ethan felt his knees weaken. He closed his eyes, full of relief. "Thank you," he whispered. When Lena woke up, sunlight filled the room. She felt weak but alive. She turned her head. Ethan was sitting in the chair beside her bed, asleep. She smiled through tears. "Ethan," she whispered. He woke quickly. "You're awake," he said softly. She nodded. "You stayed." He smiled. "I will always stay." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I thought I lost you forever." He gently held her hand. "Some love never leaves," he said. "It only waits." Weeks later, Lena walked out of the hospital strong and smiling. Ethan helped her start a small tailoring business. He helped her return to school. But more than that, he gave her back her belief. One evening, they stood outside the hospital where everything changed. Lena looked at him. "Do you know what saved me?" she asked. Ethan smiled. Love. She nodded. Sometimes, the person who finds you when you are broken is the one your heart was waiting for. Ethan held her hands gently. And as the sun set behind them, both of them understood. True love does not fade with time. It waits. And when the moment is right, it heals. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.